Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to dive deep into the extreme psychology of modern wealth building and ultimate endurance challenges. But before we get into the crazy examples, I want to frame this whole thing with a personal thought. Let's call it day 52 of my 100 days to $500,000 challenge. Everyone wants success, right? But honestly, nobody wants to make the sacrifices that success actually demands. Day 52. Today looks completely normal for me outside. I went to work, came home tired, opened my laptop, and started working on another video. Nothing exciting happened. No viral views, no huge subscriber jump, no money raining from the sky, just work. But that's the part nobody sees. People see the results. They don't see the sacrifices. They don't see the night spent learning, the weekend spent creating, or the hours spent improving one small skill at a time. Success is expensive, not because it costs money, but because it costs comfort. Today, we're looking at what it actually takes to push through those unseen days. Every day, I choose between entertainment and progress, between excuses and action, between quitting and continuing. And every day, I choose the challenge.
So let's kick this off with a massive question that tests exactly how much comfort you are really willing to sacrifice for a life-changing payoff. In a wild social experiment hosted by Mr. Beast, two complete strangers were locked inside a massive white isolation chamber. The rules? Pretty simple. Survive 100 days inside and they split $500,000. If one person taps out and leaves early, they both get absolutely nothing. Now, it sounds easy, right? Just chill for a few months. Until you realize what doing absolutely nothing but waiting actually does to the human brain. I think this quote brilliantly illustrates the true cost of chasing extreme success. It's not just about the money, it's about the intense psychological toll. Imagine stepping into a room where you have absolutely no idea what time or day it is. The lights are so blindingly bright that they literally sting your eyes. As Bailey, one of the contestants, put it, "I'm staring at a blinding white wall and I honestly think I'm losing my mind." You're stuck eating the exact same canned chicken every single day. The truth is, most people aren't stopped by failure. They're stopped by the sacrifices required before success arrives. That's why so many dreams die early.
Let's dive into our first phase and see how the traditional road to success has completely transformed.
Because whether you're trapped in a physical box for a challenge or trapped in the everyday grind of building a business, the mechanics of endurance are exactly the same. Entrepreneur Mark Tobery points out some super fascinating data here. He explains that the old-school 9-to-5 path is basically broken. The average person following that traditional route makes just over $63,000 a year, which means you're constantly just trading your time for money. Achieving true financial freedom requires a completely new route of extreme dedication, aiming for a scalable $10,000 a month and beyond. But to get there, you have to be willing to isolate yourself and do the heavy lifting that literally no one else wants to do.
So what's really interesting is Tilbury's 3-step formula for this grind, which demands you push right past the fear of failure. First, you consume knowledge. Think of it kind of like gathering resources in Minecraft. Next, you apply it. You have to build, fail, and push through those awkward early newbie gains. People like Mark Zuckerberg and J.K. Rowling, they all had the freedom to fail early on. And finally, you educate. You scale your business by turning your high-income skill into a system that others can learn from.
And to show you what applying looks like in the real world, let's look at a creator named Harrison. He spent 30 agonizing hours straight, just totally locked in, building a massive, highly detailed birthday cake in Minecraft to win a $2,500 prize from Mr. Beast. 30 hours for one single project. Every single day, you have to choose between entertainment and progress. Harrison, he chose the action. But what happens when the grind goes from a few intense hours to months of absolute isolation? That brings us to phase 2. We can see this stark contrast between two modern endurance experiments, surviving inside a literal white cube versus living entirely inside the metaverse. While Susie and Bailey were physically trapped with absolutely nothing to do, YouTuber Ryan Trahan spent 100 days trapped in a VR headset. It's like comparing a physical prison to a digital one. Ryan had infinite digital worlds to explore, but he was completely neglecting his physical body in the real world, relying entirely on a mini fridge and a coffee maker to just survive. And you know how it is. Whether you're building a business from scratch, trapped in a white room, or locked in VR, the honeymoon phase disappears super fast the second comfort is stripped away. At first, Ryan was having the time of his life making all these virtual friends, and Susie and Bailey were politely getting to know each other. But soon enough, the reality of their sacrifices really set in. The days just start to blur together. Which leads us to phase 3, where these extreme conditions push the human mind to its absolute limits. Let's map out this descent into madness because it shows how quickly sanity unravels when you're entirely cut off from the real world. By day 4, Bailey was ripping up journal paper just to make playing cards. By day 9, he was literally whipping raw pork at the walls out of sheer boredom. Meanwhile, over in the metaverse, Ryan Trahan's only real friend, an avatar named Clay, completely froze and basically died due to a headset battery failure. So Ryan was left wandering these massive digital wastelands entirely alone. Ryan's physical reality really highlights this, surviving on McDonald's deliveries, dealing with terrible acne, and just sitting in the dark. It shows that giving up physical comfort for a digital goal has some pretty devastating consequences. I mean, he threw a massive virtual party with Skrillex tracks playing, but when he took the headset off, he was just a guy sitting in a messy room, completely exhausted. The sacrifice was incredibly real, and it was painful. So, let's talk about the true cost of comfort in Phase 4. The crucial question is, when you were at your absolute lowest, how much would you pay just to get a tiny piece of comfort back? Well, 50 grand. That is the exact amount of prize money Mr. Beast demanded from Susie and Bailey on day 20 just to give them a smart bed and an iPad with the ability to turn off those blinding lights. They had spent 20 days literally shielding their eyes, totally unable to sleep properly. And yet, in a moment of intense pressure, Bailey said no to the beds. He chose to keep the money, and Susie was completely crushed. It is genuinely fascinating how psychological exhaustion totally twists your decision-making, leading to massive regrets. They turned down a private chef, but then on day 50, they happily handed over $20,000 just to briefly see their families through a glass wall. Then, on day 60, the paranoia of the whole game took over. They rejected a $50,000 mystery box. And get this, it turned out that box actually contained 2 free Teslas, which was Susie's dream car, plus their $50,000 back. The regret literally made Susie sick to her stomach for days. As the days drag on toward the finish line, the isolation turns strangers into enemies. Bailey said he felt like he was sharing a space with an annoying sibling. Susie was using up all the hot water for her showers, leaving Bailey to freeze. Bailey was raving at 3 a.m. out of pure boredom. Susie literally hid the Monopoly dice so they wouldn't have to interact with each other. When you are that deep in the grind, the psychological pressure makes every tiny little annoyance feel like an insurmountable mountain. Finally, we reach Phase 5, the climax of the grind, where all those sacrifices are put to the ultimate test. Does the payoff actually justify the pain? Well, let's look at what pushing past the diminishing returns of learning really creates. Back in the Minecraft world, 2 top-tier builders, Chloras and Icy, poured countless hours into these 2 hyper-detailed masterpieces for a $25,000 prize. One built a massive militarized mothership with a functional Gundam Panther head. Like, are you kidding me? And the other built a perfectly symmetrical trading ship with an AI robot and floating holograms. The sheer dedication required to build these skills is exactly what Mark Tilbury meant by applying knowledge until you hit expert status. Icy ultimately took home the $25,000, proving that extreme dedication yields extreme results. But let's check back in with our Cube survivors. After 100 days of absolute psychological torture, reaching day 100 wasn't even the end. They were forced into this brutal game theory dilemma: split or steal. If they both split, they walk away with $180,000 each. If one steals, they take the whole $360,000 pot for themselves. But if they both steal, they get absolutely nothing. Susie even put on noise-canceling headphones so they couldn't coordinate. The tension was unimaginable. But miraculously, after suffering together for 100 days, they both chose to trust each other and split the cash. And this brings us right back to where we started today. Whether it's building a $1 million education business, surviving a Mr. Beast isolation challenge, or spending 100 days in the metaverse, the mind is always the final boss. Day 52 isn't about making money. It's about proving I can stay committed when nobody is watching. One day, these sacrifices will make sense. Until then, I keep moving forward. Day 52, complete. The sacrifices continue. The journey continues. Because success doesn't just demand your time, it demands your comfort. So the only question left for us is, what are you willing to give up today to reach your ultimate goal tomorrow?